Good morning, children. Welcome to economics class. So, in the last class, we were discussing about the non-economic factors for economic development, then about the vicious circle of poverty, and I gave you that as a homework also, and how to break this vicious circle of poverty also we saw, and what is planning, and how this planning evolved. Before the planning commission was constituted, how was the idea of planning in India started, and we saw the evolution of planning in India, and that was also given for you as homework. I think many of you have written the homework also. Now let us go to the next topic of, is planning really needed? Okay, why should every country have planning? Or the arguments which are in favor of having planning, that is, we need planning for the following reasons. So planning is justifiable because of the following reasons. First thing is to accelerate and strengthen the market mechanism. See, when we talk of market mechanism, it is mostly found under it works very much imperfectly in the underdeveloped countries, because many of them, they are not aware of the familiarity, or they are not familiar with the market systems, market mechanism. So a large part of the economy is, maximum when you see, they are non-monetized economy in underdeveloped countries. Non-monetized economy means many a times goods are not being sold for money. They are just given as an exchange or free of cost, or one in addition to the other. All those are given, and the factor market, money market, capital market, everything is not organized in a developed country. It is not organized in an underdeveloped country, sorry children. Therefore planning is a very good substitute, okay, for the underdeveloped countries. So many of the underdeveloped countries which wants to go towards the development should definitely have planning for them to show economic growth. So planned economy, it is just a substitute for free economy, free market trade economy, or laissez-faire economy. So where they cannot follow laissez-faire economy, they can very well have a planned economy, so that all the ignorances about, or the unorganized sector, everything could be brought under proper channelization. The next is to remove the unemployment. See, when you see, in many of the underdeveloped countries itself, okay, capital is very scarce. Okay, capital formation is very, very poor, and labor is very abundantly available. So the main problem is, underdeveloped countries, they have to increase their employment opportunity, because they have got huge amount of labor force which keeps on increasing year after year. But the amount of job opportunities that are being created year after year is not enough, because population is growing very high, but employment opportunities are not growing as fast as population. So in underdeveloped countries, definitely they need planning. Only then they can remove this widespread unemployment. Okay, unemployment is a very huge problem in underdeveloped countries. You can take India itself as an example, because unemployment is a very big macroeconomic problem, because our population is very huge, our unemployment level is also high. The government finds it very difficult to provide equal amount of employment opportunities for the wide population, growing population. As a result, what is happening? Vast unemployment is there. Next is, more of disguised unemployment is there. Disguised unemployment means, it is a situation, we saw many a times, we have seen this concept before. It occurs mostly in agricultural sector, because since population is more, where a farm requires only 10 people to work to produce a maximum level of output, just because there are more number of employees, 15 people are put into work. As a result, what will happen? This output will remain the same only, but instead of 10, 15 people will be getting employment, where this work could have been done only with the employment of just 10 workers. Just because unemployed people are more in number, many people are put into the production process, agricultural process. Okay, as a result, output will remain the same only. The marginal productivity will fall down. This situation you call it as disguised unemployment, where it prevails more in rural sector only. The next reason why we want why we want planning is to achieve a balanced development. Okay, we need to have a balanced development in all the sectors. See, in absence of what is it, sufficient enterprise and initiative, the planning authority only is the only institution or is the only body which can go for planning and for the development of the country as such. So what happens in many of the underdeveloped countries, the development of agriculture and the development of industrial sector, and it requires the development of other overheads also. All the expansion of domestic and foreign trade, everything should be developed in a very harmonious way. This could be done only when there is proper planning, because when there should be planning on a balanced scale, agriculture should develop, industry also should develop, the infrastructure, that which we call it as social economic overheads. Okay, social overheads means all the infrastructure. Economic overheads means the banking and insurance sectors are called as economic overheads. That also should expand. Apart from that, domestic trade also should increase, foreign trade also should increase. Just imagine, if there is no proper planning in a country, can all these sectors witness growth? Can all these sectors be developed in a parallel way? It is not possible. That is the reason why we say that a planned economy is better, because for a regional development, or the development should be achieved on a wider aspect. The next point of justification is development of agricultural and industrial sector. See, the need for, see, the development of agriculture sector is important, as well as the development of industrial sector is also very, very important, because these two sectors are interdependent. They are dependent on each other. See, the reorganization, see, agricultural productivity is very low. So what is the government doing? It is reorganizing the agricultural sector. By reorganizing the agriculture sector, what is happening is, I told you, disguised labor is there in agriculture sector. This excess labor force is used, or it is absorbed in the industrial sector. Okay, where the more number of people are available in the rural sector, that excess people are being utilized in the industrial sector. Now so for the development of agriculture, it is very, very essential. It requires agriculture only supplies the raw material which is needed for the industrial sector. So when we reorganize the agriculture sector, one thing is labor force is moved from agriculture sector to the industrial sector, and apart from that, the industrial sector is totally supplied with all the raw materials. What are the industries which depends on agriculture for raw materials? The textile industry, where we require cotton. Cotton is an agro product. Textile is an industrial product. They are dependent. Sugar industry. Sugar cane is an agricultural product. Sugar is an industrial product. Like this, there are, and as such, oil industry, sunflower oil, and mines. Okay, all those comes under agricultural sector. And poultry farming, that is dairy products. Okay, only when animal husbandry is improved, okay, cattle rearing, all those are improved, definitely hotel industry also will develop. So these two industries, only when agriculture is reorganized, industrial sector also will develop. Next is development of infrastructure. See, when we talk of development of the agriculture sector and industrial sector, both cannot develop when there is no infrastructural or economic and social overheads. Now let us tell what is economic and social overheads. Just imagine, agriculture sector is a good amount of money is invested in agriculture sector and industrial sector, but no infrastructure is developed. Infrastructure means the development of canals, lakes, roads, railways, power stations, okay, transport department, telecommunication system. All those helps in the development of trade and commerce. Just imagine, without the building of canals, can agricultural productivity improve? It is not possible. And without roads and railway network, can the raw materials reach the industries? That is also not possible. Without power stations, can industries work better? That is also not possible. So the development of infrastructure is also required when if agriculture has to improve, and if industries also has to improve. Next is infrastructure development. It involves huge amount of investment. Okay, see, suppose if you are investing huge amount of money now, it requires a long gestation period. Gestation period means the time that you are investing money and the time that you are reaping the benefits. That duration you call it as gestation period. See, for example, if a government is investing on development of roads, bridges, canals and all, the benefits of that will be got only at a later date. Okay, on the long run, because of the development of these infrastructures, what will happen? Trade will improve. The movement of people from one place to another place will increase. People will move from rural areas to urban areas for education purpose, for job purpose. As a result, what will happen? In the long run, when the strong infrastructure only provides good economic growth also. Next is development of money market and capital market. See, the expansion of domestic trade and foreign trade requires not only the development of industries, industrial sector and economic overheads, but also it requires social overheads, which we call it as a role of financial institutions. Without an efficient banking system or the financial network, it is not, the agriculture sector also cannot grow, industrial sector also cannot grow, and the government also will not have enough money to invest in this infrastructures. So money market, capital market also have to be well developed in an underdeveloped country. So for the money markets to develop and capital markets to develop, definitely planning is very, very essential. So the obstacle for the growth of trade and industry is what? Money only. So planning alone will only bring a very good sound money market and capital market. Next is to remove the poverty and inequalities. The main objective of all the planning, the different 5-year plans, the main objective is what? To remove poverty and to reduce inequalities. These are the mantras of all the 5-year plans. See, only when poverty is reduced, what will happen? Income generation will increase, national income will increase, then per capita income will increase. When income increases, automatically the difference between the rich and the poor, which we call it as inequalities, also reduces. Employment increase in the employment opportunity reduces poverty, and this in turn increases the national income, reduces the inequalities. Okay, has it happened in India in the last 65 years? Again, it is a question only. So, Arthur Lewis, he says that planning is more necessary where only in backward countries. For what reason? To devise the different ways and means to make a concerted effort to raise the national income. Only when planning is there, okay, there will be good efforts towards increasing the national income of the country. So far we saw why is planning needed, that is the arguments in favor of planning. Okay, this is 32nd question if I am right. Okay, it is a detailed answer, quite an important answer also. 32nd, no, case for planning. No, it is a 3-mark question. Okay, you need to write 3 points. Okay, and the points are simplified also. Next is, what is the case against planning? There are arguments which are against the planning also. Many of the countries say that the market can adjust on itself. Okay, the price can adjust on itself based on the demand and supply conditions. Likewise, the capital market also can adjust according to the demand and supply conditions. Then why there should be state intervention? Okay, so state intervention should not be there in the name of planning. This is the concern of many of the developed countries, where they feel the intervention of the state is a disturbance for them. But the prime goal of economic planning is stabilization in the developed countries and growth in the low developed countries. When we talk of developed countries, okay, they wanted to just maintain that level of development. Okay, they have to stay as a rich country, for which they have to have planning. Okay, in the case of underdeveloped countries like India, we need to grow to the level of developed countries, so we need planning. Already rich people, they have to maintain that status, so they need planning. So planning is very, very important. It is not a limitation, they say. Next is a few of the economists feel that they retard the private initiatives. Okay, the private sector does not have good initiative. There is no motivation for the private sector because planning is totally done only by the government sector only. The central planning authority only does the planning, so there is no much initiative taken by the private sector, and the freedom of choice is also available. The government poses so much of restrictions, and the cost of doing the administration for planning is very very high, and it will automatically stop market mechanism. That automatic adjustment of the price, which we call it as price mechanism, it will stop working. It cannot work efficiently when there is too much of interference from the government side. Now let us see what are the arguments which are against planning. Okay, telling that planning is not needed for the following reasons. One is loss of freedom. The absence of freedom in the decision making, it is an important obstacle in the growth. The private sector find it a very important obstacle, because they cannot grow, because there is the influence of the central planning authority into their private sector also. Just imagine, when there is no proper planning, when private sector is given freedom, total freedom, without any control given by the government side, definitely the private sector will increase their profit. Though our national income will increase, but the welfare of the people will be affected. If the government is not posing any restriction on the private sector, what will happen? The private enterprises will start producing goods and services which gives them only profit. They will not produce essential commodities. Rather, they will produce goods and services which gives them good profit. Just imagine, production of liquor will increase, production of cigarettes will increase, production of all unwanted drugs, okay, all narcotic drugs will increase, and all the illegal products will the production of those products will increase with if there is no proper planning. So the government poses restrictions. Sometimes they say the private entrepreneurs, their freedom is so much restricted because of the planning. This is a argument which is kept against the planning. There is freedom, there is no consumption, freedom for consumption also. See here, in many of the developed countries, there is freedom to consume alcohols in a common place. But in a country like India, there is restriction for consumption of alcohols in the public, and not only that, cigarette consumption also is restricted, and there is a choice of occupation also. There is freedom of occupation. If it is given there, they say that growth can be faster. But freedom to produce and freedom to fix the prices, when these are given to the private sector, they say that they can definitely show a good development of the economy. Under planning, crucial decisions are taken by whom? Central planning authority. Underline that. The customers, producers, workers, they enjoy no freedom of choice. So therefore they say that it is a road to serfdom. Okay, that is losing one's personal freedom and ending in economic stagnation. But normally the decisions of the government are not always rational. The freedom of the private producers will be misused. Why the government is not giving freedom to the private producers? Many a time the private producers will misuse the freedom given by the government. So profit will be given as a top priority. If the government is giving full freedom to the private entrepreneurs, telling that you can increase the national income, they will totally misuse the freedom given by the government, because their intention will be what? Only profit making, and welfare will be totally relegated, that is gone to the last position. Welfare will not be given preference. Next is elimination. Why we should not have, many countries say that they should not have planning system, planning commission. Elimination of initiative. Here, under the planning system, the central planning authority only will be deciding all the protocols which has to be done. So there will not be any incentive for initiatives. People, those who take any good lot of initiative, will not be given any reward, and no innovations also will take place. This is one of the argument which is against planning. Under that, absence of private ownership and profit motivation. totally what will happen, the entrepreneurs will be discouraged. Okay, see, when there is no you should not earn profit beyond a certain level, means will the entrepreneurs be encouraged to earn more profit? Definitely no. They will never take big bold decisions, and they will not take risk also to earn huge profit, because attractive profit is an incentive for searching new ideas, new lines, new methods. All those are missed in a planned economy, because the government is posing restrictions. So in a planned economy, all these will be a negative factor. Next is, as all of them they enjoy equal rewards under planned economy, the irrespective of their efforts, efficiency, okay, everyone is given equal amount of money for their survival. So what will happen is, no one will take any new ventures. They will not take up any risk to show new innovations, or they will never think of undertaking any risky ventures and all, because you are given reward for your survival. You have got enough amount of money. So people will always have a satisfactory mode only. They will never have any motivation to earn more. Next is bureaucracy. In a planned economy, there is always domination by the bureaucrats. That is, only the top management people will decide the features of a planned economy. And red tapeism, delay in decision making will be there, because planned economy is totally done by the central government authorities in charge of doing the plans. So planning, executing, implementing, and analyzing or whether it is done properly, all this, when there is a small change needed also, it takes a long procedural delays are there, time loss is there. As a result, what will happen, good business opportunities will also go from our hands. It is because of these reasons, many of the developed countries like Russia, China, okay, they offer incentives for the private entrepreneurs. They say that private entrepreneurs can also give their contribution. If you are giving any contribution, you will be given a reward for that. Next is high cost of management. See, the fruits of planning, no doubt, it is very good. Industrialization is there. Social justice will be there. Balanced regional balance is also good. But all these can happen only by incurring huge amount of cost for managing all these infrastructures. See, what happens is, the benefit that we get out of this is very less when compared to the amount of cost that is being involved in the management of this. So what will happen, the benefits are just overruled by the huge cost of management of this planned economy. The better we try to plan, Lewis has said, the better we try to plan, the more planners we need. See, whenever we think of planning more and more better, it means that we need good sound people with good brain people to do more better planning. Inadequate data, faulty estimations, and improper implementation of plan, all these will result in the wastage of resources. And either there will be huge amount of excess supply, or there will be shortages of supply. So these are also the outcomes of planning. Next is difficulty in advanced calculations. See, many a times what will happen is, planning is done this year, and the planning is done this year for the workings of next year. So what will happen is, in the course of time, there can occur so much of changes also. Environmental changes can occur, economic changes can occur, markets can come down or markets can boost up. All those are likely to happen. So what is happening, whatever the government has set as plans will only have to be followed. Too much, sometimes it will be very difficult to do advanced calculations even before the predictions, even before they are able to predict whatever is the outcomes the next subsequent year. So price mechanism, what will happen is, it provides for automatic adjustment among price, demand, and supply, as in the case of laissez-faire economy. In the case of laissez-faire, as and when the market situations are changing, the market mechanism will automatically adjust, but the producers and consumers adjust their supply and demand based on the price changes. There is no much of market price mechanism in case of planned economy, because everything decision is made only by the Central Planning Authority. Sometimes advanced calculations, see what will happen after 5 years is very, very difficult to predict. Now we are doing the planning, okay, assuming that this will happen in the next 5 years. But many a times what is happening, sometimes unexpected things also happens. See, the present situation is a very, very clear example. Okay, we are undergoing the 13th plan. Our 13th plan, when they have formulated the plan, they might have devised so many plans and objectives might have, targets might have been set. Is it, just imagine, are we having school and are we going according to the plan whatever we decided in the starting of the year? See, 11th standard you joined, okay, by the end of the 11th standard itself, okay, this pandemic has started. Okay, now at this time what are you supposed to do? This is now, we have entered into December, the end of the year. We should have completed all the topics, all the lessons. We should have started with writing a pre half yearly right now. This is according to the plan which has been made by us. But situations are in such a way that planning sometimes doesn't work. Okay, you cannot, it is very, very, now it is very difficult for us to calculate whether we need to open the school or we need not open the school. Is it, because situations you can never predict. See, did we ever predict in 2000, when you were in 11th standard, did you ever think that corona virus will come and totally it will just lopside the whole world economy? Never we have dreamt about it, is it? So many a times it is very, very difficult to do calculations. Now can we ever think of giving you proper coaching, finding whichever is a difficult task for you, which is the difficult lesson, for that giving you more amount of coaching, revision, all these, is it possible now? It is because all these were planned. Every year we follow according to whatever we have planned, but there are situations where it is impossible to make decisions. Okay, though we have been planning, doing this for years and years together, there are situations where we can never take any decisions in a very precise manner. So sometimes the same thing is applicable for the country also. Sometimes the supply could be very much more, sometimes the demand could be very much more. Okay, and the market economy, the countries like capitalistic countries like USA also will find it very difficult. Okay, when huge amount of supply and huge amount of demand, they find it very difficult to adjust the market situation also. This is witnessed even in very developed countries like USA. So the argument here against planning is that whether we need planning or not is not the issue. The issue is, we want planning. What is the right type of planning that is required for suiting the country? See, US can follow a different planning system. India might follow a different planning system. Whether it is USA or India, both the countries require planning. The developed countries, they want planning to maintain their development level and to increase from that level. If they don't have proper planning, they will also come to the level of underdeveloped countries. For countries like India, we need planning. We need a planned economy for us to grow from this level to the next level, higher level. So obviously all the countries require planning. But the issue is, what type of planning should be chosen? Which type of planning is suitable for our country? Okay, and whether free mechanism can be adopted, or we have to have a planned economy, or we can have a combination of both. In certain places we can have a market mechanism. In certain places the government intervention is also absolutely needed. So the decision lies with the country, where they have to choose the right type of planning system. Now in the next lesson we shall look into the types of planning, which is a very, very easy topic, and easily you can score also. It is a 5-mark answer, easily scoreable also. So with this I finish today's class, children, and for homework I want you to just a second. I want you to write, describe the case for planning. It is a 3-mark question, part C question only. Then Yes, 37th question. Bring out the arguments against planning. Today we saw only these two topics. What are the cases for planning? What are the cases against planning? That is 32 and 37. That is all, children. Have a good day. Bye.